Ahead and get started. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Tom Jones. I'm the Executive Director of the Faith Inclusion Network. The Faith Inclusion Network helps faith communities include people with disabilities, and we connect faith communities with resources and consultants and offer trainings and consultations to help churches, mosques, and synagogues and other faith communities include people with disabilities and offer that gift of belonging. One of the big steps to do that is to form an inclusion team in your faith community. So today we're very, very happy to have three people who are experts in their faith on inclusion and forming inclusion teams. And so I want to introduce Lyda Merrill. Lyda has spent 25 years as working for Heritage Christian Services in Rochester, New York. And Lyda, she has been the community inclusion and spiritual life at the head of those teams and for 25 years. And she's been offering supports for faith communities and leaders and assisting them in developing inclusive practices that enhance the spiritual and religious expressions of all people in faith communities. Lyda also has led a team to Guatemala for Bethel Ministries International, which has provided wheelchairs for the people in Guatemala. Some really exciting work there. And lastly, since retiring from Heritage Christian Services, Lyda is a coordinating pastor and is responsible for coordinating lay servants and pulpit supplies and to support 3 small congregations. And she also leads services for 2 small churches as well and provides pre-blessed communion at each congregation. So we're happy to have you with us, Lyda, a wealth of experience, and we look forward to hearing from you. Bonnie Leaf is with us. Bonnie was a special ed teacher in elementary and middle school for 30 years. Yay, Bonnie, because I was a special ed teacher for 25 years. So we have the same heart there. When Bonnie retired, she became executive function ADHD coach and owned her practice for 13 years until retiring. She's a member of the Har Hashem, a Reformed synagogue in Boulder, Colorado. For the past 10 years, she's been the chairperson of the Disability Awareness Inclusion Committee, and this committee actively seeks to include all individuals and improve accessibility for all who enter Har Hashem. Bonnie is currently a member and secretary on the board of trustees at Har Hashem. She lives with her husband in Westminster, Colorado. She has 2 adult children, both who live out of state. And finally, I want to welcome Hanan Katoli. Hanan is also a special ed teacher and advocate. Yay, Hanan. So she's a mosque facilitator for Musson for over 5 years. Hanan provides accommodations and supports for special needs families in the Milwaukee Brookfield Muslim community. She organizes and arranges events for community members with special needs and their families. Hanan provides accommodations for individuals with special needs at general community events. And she is a Muslim Sunday school lead teacher at ISM Brookfield for the past 6 years. We're very excited to have all of you with us today and look forward to learning a whole lot from your expertise and the work that you've done. I'll now turn this over to Rebecca Wolf. Rebecca is FIN's Interfaith Engagement Coordinator and Faith Inclusion Coordinator. So Rebecca will be conducting our interview, and so we will look forward to hearing from everybody. So Rebecca, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Tom. So I wanted to give everyone a chance to kind of go through and give us the overview of how you started your inclusion team, the process, who you included, um, what you did. And actually, I have many more questions to ask than we have time for. So I'll try to just ask a few, and then when we go to the breakout rooms, people can ask more detailed questions. So, first, the area that I wanted to ask about is who did you in your include in your inclusion committee? Um, People with disabilities or clergy or volunteers, um, or people with certain expertise. So that's the first question. Who is in your team? Bonnie, would you like to start?
Sure. So we started in an interesting way at Harsham. Um, we had kind of a team with a different rabbi, and then when our rabbi came to Harshem about 10 years ago, he held a meeting with people who were professionals in the field from all different types of professionals that dealt with in the world of disabilities. And then nothing happened for several months. And I said, well, what's happening with that? That was a really good meeting and we want to get things going. And he looked at me like this and said, I don't have a chairperson. So that is how I became chairperson of our committee. And we started because we started with a group of people who are already involved. We started with only professionals, and we had a psychiatrist, a doctor, special ed teachers, a social worker, and we realized that wasn't inclusive of everybody we needed, but that is how we started. And then Erica Baruch, who's on this call, she works for Jewish Disability Advocates in Denver through Jewish Family Services, and she's a member of Harshem. And so she started working with me, and we built our committee out. When we started, so we did a accessibility audit, we did needs assessment, we did lay leadership interviews. We spent a lot of time making a mission statement so we could identify who we were. It was very interesting because at the time we were just called an inclusion committee, and people kept coming to me saying all kinds of inclusion that we could possibly be, and we couldn't possibly be all that. And then we just limited it to disability inclusion. So that's how we got started.
That's a great overview. And I know we have a few people who are in charge of synagogue inclusion committees here, so we can maybe discuss more about synagogues in the breakout. Um, Lida, would you like to speak about who and what and why you started your committees?
Well, I have to go back to 2005 when I was in part of a congregation here in Rochester, and I'd been there for quite a few years, and believed that as I was part of the children's ministry, and I saw a lot of kids who seemed to have disabilities, and that we were not addressing them.
Hello.
And the it was a very large church, and they would get lost in the crowd. And they only would come a couple of times and then we'd never see them again. And that's because we were not addressing their needs. And so started pulling together a group of people who I thought, and I was correct, that I thought, well, I think that this person would if we sit and we talk. So we went through a notice and wonder phase. Like, I notice these children are coming, and I notice we're not doing anything for them. And then I notice that they don't come back. And what do my peers also notice? And then what does that make us wonder? And that has been the theme throughout it all, was notice and wonder. And so we got together, formed a group of people that included myself, the director of the children's ministry, somebody from the pastoral ministries team, and three parents. And uh, from that, it developed out into a larger group of people. But that was what we started with, was two of us teachers who were interested, the lead teacher for the children, um, letting the pastor know what we were thinking about. And we spent a while praying about it. And at the same time we were praying, it was like a twofold thing, that we were praying, so we don't want to make anything, we don't want mistakes and have parents just go, and run away. But also intentionally, that I stepped out of my traditional children's mode that I was in and was just there to look for kids who might have a disability and might need to have some extra attention. So that's how we all started. And then it just kind of grew from there. And we at the time I left the church, I believe there were about 38 kids with varying stages of disabilities. And we were also starting to do more work with adults who had disabilities. Um, and one of the things that this really involved and included was more than just that initial group, is we needed people from other departments to be part of this. Now, the building was already ADA compliant. It was a brand new building. It was beautiful. Anything that you needed, you're going to find in there. They had empty rooms they couldn't even use yet. Um, but we noticed things like, so somebody is out of the children's ministry now and they're in the youth group, and the youth group are invited to volunteer at the church. So maybe there's a young man who uses a wheelchair and he's being encouraged. Well, the other kids are being encouraged to get involved, and he's just kind of there. So working with the youth group ministry, and how do you include kids with disabilities? So we went up to the youth group, and then so he decides he wants to be a greeter. Wonderful for him, but the greeting team doesn't know how to support him. So then we had to branch out to include the greeting team. Eventually, we had to branch out to the parking lot team because somebody wanted to volunteer in the parking lot, and then the sound system. So somebody needed to figure out something, how the sound system works, convince the people at the sound system this person is going to add value to your team. Just wait and see, and and then support them in that. So we kind of became job coaches also. And um, that was how we started. We saw the need, we noticed it, we wondered, well, what's going to happen if we get involved? Um, the parents' role always was as technical advisors. We did not involve parents in teaching in what we were doing, because they really let us know they needed respite, and that hour to 2 hours that they got in the adult sanctuary without their son or daughter with them was what they needed. And it's what at that time that we could provide, was giving them that break. So we also ended up recruiting a lot of people to help out. And it ended up being people maybe unlike us, because they had no experience with anybody with disabilities. They just had generous hearts, and they believed God was tugging at their hearts to get involved. So um, we they became the people that we used, and then some of the other children also became buddies. And um, long and short of it, that was what we did.
Thanks, Lida. Hanan, I don't know if you're handling many congregations, so maybe I can ask you a bit of a different question, um, unless you want to answer this
No, go
question.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, because Hanan is working with MUSN, which is our partner and is a national Muslim disability advocacy organization, and she handles many mosques, and you have a special certification program for the mosques. Maybe you could tell us a little about, what areas you focus, how do you assess? And then I'd like to also ask Lida and Bonnie, how do you choose which areas to focus on? Because there's so many areas of disability. So, yeah, Hanan, could you start about your
Yeah,
program a little
yeah,
bit?
of course. So Mohsin is an organization, again, works with Muslim communities around the nation and has recently even expanded into Canada. But they work with mosques across the country to help create as inclusive spaces as possible. And so kind of the way that the procedure goes is that they'll, connect with a community that has interest or, has community members that have disabilities. And they, send some reps to that community and they will kind of do kind of like this needs assessment survey that they push out to the community. And based on that, that kind of starts the conversation about what accommodations, what's the needs of that community. And so I was introduced to the organization about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe more like six. And I initially wasn't serving as the facilitator between the organization and the mosque itself. Um, that was kind of a role held by somebody else, but when they had moved away, I came in about 2 years later, and served as that person between the organization and the mosque. And we had kind of pushed out a brand new survey to the community and got a much better and more updated idea. And we now, almost 4 years later, I would say we have about 30, if not more, registered families in the area with such ranges of disabilities and differences of abilities. And we range from, autism to cognitive disabilities to, visually impaired, deaf, hard of hearing, such a range of disabilities. And based on that, Mohsin will kind of say, like, here's our suggested, accommodations that you could provide. And they will support me in any way if I need ASL. For example, one of or the badge system. So basically, Mohsin as an organization will kind of certify mosques based on how accessible they are. So our Brookfield Mosque, we do have a Braille Quran accessible to any individuals that are blind. We do offer, upon request, ASL services for community members that are deaf or hard of hearing, and obviously closed captioning, again, upon request. We also have an alternative Sunday school program. So, and this year is probably the year that I've had the most students ever. I have 15 students in our special needs Sunday school program. And again, it's a completely alternative curriculum, and Mohsin as an organization provides me with an alternative curriculum to teach our special needs children, about our faith and, reading Quran and how to pray and all of that, those, foundations of our faith itself. And now it's accessible to a community that was overlooked for so long. And again, so Mohsin has this badge system that really kind of how accessible your message is, you kind of earn a badge. So our Brookfield Mosque has, a wheelchair badge, so it's accessible for any wheelchair users. We offer alternative programs, so we'll do kind of like respite nights for some families. We'll do support groups for parents. We'll do, activities for young adults. So, an event badge, meaning kind of you have events regularly for children, adults, or families with special needs.
One quick question for you. Do the mosques themselves have teams, or who is in charge of running the programs in the mosque?
Yeah, so each mosque has a designated facilitator that serves as the kind of like the connection between the mosque and the organization itself. And so I serve as that person for the Brookfield Mosque. And then there's another individual who serves as that person for our main kind of like Milwaukee Mosque. All of these mosques are kind of like intertwined with each other. So they all kind of have the very similar leadership or leadership that's connected with each other. But each mosque has one designated facilitator between the organization and the mosque. And it's typically those facilitators that are planning events, arranging accommodations, etc.
that helps to understand kind of the process or the system. And we can share later about the Muslim certification, system because I
Yes.
think it could be helpful to other congregations and other faiths too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, uh, I know we don't have so much time, so I want to ask Bonnie and Lida briefly also, how did you decide which areas of inclusion to focus on? Did you do, as Hanan was mentioned, do you do a needs assessment? Do you survey the congregation? How do you decide, and prioritize what is the most important?
So when we first started, we did needs assessments, and that's how we started. But at this point, we've been a committee for over 10 years. And so we focus on belonging with the synagogue. So we're focused on accessibility for the whole congregation. We're focused on hearing, vision, mental health, sensory problems, invisible disabilities, autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, and um, and mental health. And we also have a separate inclusion specialist who works with children with our religious school. So we are integral to how our synagogue operates. So I think when we first started, we would focus on a disability. This year, we're focusing on mental health. This year, we're focusing on autism. But now it's building off the whole belonging. We want everybody to belong. And what do we need to do to have that happen? So we had automatic door openers installed in bathrooms so people could get in and out of the bathroom. We had a ramp built up to the bima so people could get up to the bima. We have FM devices at services for hearing for those who might need it. We have fidget toys. So we're pretty inclusive, trying to meet everybody's needs. Within the past month, we did an accessibility tour we invited lots of people and not many came, but we got good information on what are we missing and what do we still need to do. And so now we're focusing on those things.
That's great to hear you're getting feedback and you're, trying to encompass as much as possible. Um, Lida, would you say also you kind of span the spectrum of disability and adults and kids and various types of invisible and visible disabilities?
Yes, we do. I mean, not employed at Heritage Christian Services anymore because of my retirement. And so now I'm focusing more on pastoring my churches. So my congregations are United Methodists, and we have an annual physical plant survey that has to be done by all the churches. And so that lets us know if there's something that we need to change. Doesn't mean we're going to change it, but at least we are aware of that need. And in New York State, the United Methodist Church has congregation. So we have the individual congregations, but we also have, we call it the Upper New York, so it's almost all of Upper New York, and we're with the Susquehanna in Pennsylvania, that district, and we have Disability Awareness, Disability Access Committee, and I lead that in New York State. And one of the things that we are very committed on is people with all abilities and disabilities, and um, that's very broad, really, really broad, as Bonnie was saying, what that all that encompasses for people. But we believe that everybody needs to be included. If we are saying that our doors are open for everybody and we welcome everybody, then we really do need to do that. And if we are focusing only on developmental disabilities um, or only people who are in wheelchairs or whatever it is that's more visible that we can see, then we are probably not going to, we're probably going to miss somebody. So by making it known that it's anybody who has a disability, including an invisible disability. I have an invisible disability, but until you talk to me for very long, you're never going to pick up on it. So it, so we focus on everybody, and a lot of what we work on, especially through the access committee for the state, is what people need for their buildings to be accessible. Is something that we spend a lot of time and energy on.
Great. And also maybe, well, all of you, and especially Bonnie and Lida, you might be able to share some written links, resources or links to things later on. I think we actually want to go to the breakout rooms. So Tom, would you like to explain how the breakout rooms are going to work?
Okay, yes. Yes, you'll have three different breakout rooms. Each one of our speakers will be in a different room, so you can choose which breakout room to go to. And, it may be specific to your faith, or maybe one of our speakers mentioned something and you want to follow up with that. So you'll have your choice, and we'll spend approximately about 20 minutes in the breakout room, and then we'll come back as a larger group. So we'll go ahead and open up the breakout rooms right now.
Hmm. Tom, would you like me to go with Bonnie or
Uh,
or where would you like me to go?
Go with Hanan.
Oh, Hanan. Okay. Okay.
Now, we don't do anything, right? We just wait for the room.
I think you'll need to join your own room.
Oh, I do?
I think so. This is kind of a new to us too.
I
Where do
am
we make
not
that
sure.
choice?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not sure how to do that.
yeah, Lida and Bonnie, do you see if you're on a computer, do you see on the bottom of the screen with the menus, do you see something with four squares that says breakout rooms?
I just assigned Bonnie and Lida to their own rooms there. So
Oh, thank
Oh,
you.
feel like
Okay.
parents saying, go to your room.
I'll go join Bonnie too, Rebecca. So I'll go to her room.
Thanks, Erica.
Of
Yeah,
course.
thanks, Tom. And maybe you can assign the rest of these people. You can just put them in a room.
We'll give them a little bit more time to choose.
Okay. All right, I'll go with, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be that as many in Hanan's.
If not, if they don't have so many questions, should we join with another room?
Um,
Well, I guess I'll see who's there.
let's see how it goes.
Okay. I'll
Okay, I'm going to sign. Okay.
And
Mhm.
how can we um, join together with the notice and the wonder and make it I think you'll find that that's really will draw people in like it has you, just that those two words, notice and wonder,
Absolutely.
and then from there go on.
Yeah, I thank you for that. Yeah.
And Shelley, I think you're going to have a good sounds like you've got a really good start in your heart and with what you were doing before you retired. So you've got a lot going for you there.
Yes. And I'm ready. I'm ready now. Like the last year was hard, but I'm ready now.
Good. Maria or Elaine or Tamara.
But I don't know if y'all have talked about this, but for inclusion teams that are formed in churches, what do you see their function being? What role do they play in the church?
Well, they start out noticing that there's a need. They find other people who are noticing just through their own personal networks and get them together, like I was just saying with Shelley, and sit down, tell me, let's talk about what we notice. And one of the things I have found is from the beginning, keeping it positive.
Sorry, Lita, I feel bad. I'm at work, so I had to answer the phone. I apologize.
Well, good to have you here, Maria. Um, and then you've got these people who are noticing things, and you talk about, well, wondering what can we do? And because otherwise you're just individual people kind of going, huh? But then bringing them together and saying, okay, so what are we all going, huh, about? And then what can we do? I wonder what we can do. I wonder what we can do for the first grader who does not seem to be able to sit still and his teacher's ready to quit. Or I wonder what we can do for the the high school class that's got those two kids who use wheelchairs. And I wonder what we can do. And then you just build it from there. Um, the other people that you're going to need to get to notice are people that are not part of anything that has to do with special needs, and they probably um, won't join your committee just because they're very busy people, and it's not probably not something that they're feeling called to do. But you're going to have them on board with what you're doing, and that could be the parking lot guys. because maybe somebody needs help getting their son, daughter, or significant other in a wheelchair off of the van and into the building. And if you have the parking lot guys on your side, even though they are not part of what you're doing as a committee, if they're on your side, then they're going to want to help the person in a wheelchair get off of the van and into the building. So you're going to need to involve the parking lot guys and the greeters. And I have found that when you get the people who are not part of your group and you're not asking them to be part of the group because they're going to say no, but you're just getting them involved in what they are doing, which is helping people access the building or helping open the doors. Or if somebody, if you have an automatic door opener, then somebody there to greet them when they get in. Even though, so they become like sub members of the group, and you need them, but they don't ever have to come to one of your meetings. And they are so important that if you don't have them on your side, it's going to be really difficult. So if you've got, you have this wondrous thing where all of the teachers are listening and learning and coming in and asking you questions about what do I do with this or what do I do about that, or the ushers are coming and saying, we've got these people from this group home that keep coming, and what do we do with them? And so you need them to keep your eyes open, but they also need you to keep their eyes open to the needs of the people. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Tom, but that was something that we didn't expect we were going to need to do that became a vital part of ministry.
Okay. No, no, you did. You did. And the importance of involving the whole congregation in the awareness of people with disabilities and some of their needs is just extremely important, and just doesn't really rely on one or two people.
No, it can't. If one or two people think that they can run it or do it or be it, they've made a big mistake. It really is a whole congregation, even if they don't know it. I've been in mega churches and I've been in little tiny churches where you've got 5 people. And everybody has to be involved. Nobody gets to take a seat and not be involved. And because we always focus on, it's not just kids who are hyperactive or who use wheelchairs or whatever, or need an ASL interpreter, but it's also the woman who is now 92 years old and has been an active member of the church and has been the director of this and president of that and always did this, and now she can't do it all anymore because she's just getting old at 92. It's not watching out for her. Somebody has to watch out for her also. And again, the parking lot guys, if you have them, if your church is big enough that you have to have parking lot guys, those are the people that we can't forget because we're focused on the needs of kids with disabilities or adults with developmental disabilities. It's also the elderly or the people with ALS or whatever it is. The disability access, they need to be aware of it all. They can't do it all, but hopefully they've got people on their team that says, okay, I'm going to step away from helping with kids and focus on the adults. Or I'm going to step away from what I'm doing with the parking lot ministry because God's really grabbed my heart around helping people who use wheelchairs to get into the building, and I think I need to do something in the building with them. Then we have found those people, and we really love those people too.
Okay, yeah, it really broadens your awareness of who are the people who are disabled, or who are the people that have disabilities, not just your kiddos with autism or kiddos in wheelchairs.
Yes. Getting some more folks in here. Anybody have any questions that?
think have a very shy bunch here.
Well, it's quite different for me now being in the role of pastor, and seeing that I am the one that's encouraging people in the church to include people with disabilities, because I'm used to being somebody in the congregation who is going to the pastor and saying, "Hey, we've all gotten together and noticed and wondered, and we would like to do some work for the kids with disabilities," and trying to convince the pastor that this is something we should do, versus I'm already there. Hey, come on, we can do it. And the people in the church are going, we're just too tired. So it's kind of an interesting place to be in that point.
If you're a person, you've kind of played both roles. If you're a person that's trying to form an inclusion team, any suggestions on working with pastors or the ministers?
Pray. Make sure you are praying before you go to them. And kind of seeking their blessing, knowing that if we go ahead and start this, that you will be on our side. And that makes a big difference. And then keeping them informed, not that they need to come to every meeting or any meeting at all, they don't need to. But if you're I encourage you to take notes of the meetings that you're having and send them to the pastor, that she or he needs to know what's going on. If they don't read them, they don't read them. But you know you sent them. So you're hoping that they're not going to be shocked when you say, well, I explained to you about so and so, so, we shouldn't really be surprised that they did whatever. Because as pastors, we don't like to get surprises like that. So
Okay.
at least send meeting notes so that they hopefully will read them. And so if you're so get the notice and wonder people together, pray, then let the pastor know that you've been gathering, you're praying, that you're praying for her or him, and that they would be able to guide you, give you some discernment, um, and then see where the clergy goes from there. Usually they're gonna just want to make sure nothing's gonna get disruptive. Like you're not gonna go and take all the children's ministries to put them into a special needs ministry class and then explaining to them, well, no, that's not what we're about. We're about having kids with disabilities included in the regular classrooms when possible, and whatever it is that you need to explain to them, that you're not going to go steal staff from other teams because they're going to feel, oh, now we're going to get the ushers mad at us or whatever.
Okay, I think we're at the end of our breakout rooms, so we may be, let's see, we'll go ahead and close now and kind of report back a little bit on what was discussed. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to see if everybody's gotten back here. I think Lida's group is back. Anon, I guess your group is back. And Bonnie. Hey, I think we have everybody back in the big room now. So I'm glad you got a chance to visit in your breakout rooms. And Lana, would you want to kind of report a little bit about what was a few highlights from your room?
We had some really interesting questions, and there was somebody who mentioned that the person who has been doing the special needs ministry has left the church, and now somebody else has got that, and a little panicky about that. And so, Tom, are you giving out our email addresses as part of this?
I certainly can. Yes.
Okay. I told her that that would be the best way to get hold of me for a sympathetic ear. Um, so that's, stepping into the shoes of someone who has been doing the special needs ministry, and now you are the person that's a big step to take. And I'm glad that person is here today and learning from this group of people. And we had someone else in the group is who has been retired but now coming back and going to be doing hopefully special needs ministry, and her excitement for that. And that was wonderful to hear the excitement for the group. Seems like I work with a lot of people who are just been doing this for a long time, and they're starting to get tired. So I really enjoyed hearing her energy for what she's going to be doing, and I applaud her for bringing that energy to her congregation, to where she is.
Oh, good. Thank you. Hanan, you have such a different situation, but and I think other people may be interested in how it's organized with the Islamic faith and with Muslim and all. But can you kind of give us a little summary of anything that was discussed?
Yeah, so Nicola and I were kind of going back and forth about like the process of how the conversation around, disability inclusion just kind of started in, our community. And I had kind of mentioned to her for me personally, it just felt so natural and felt like it was just, again, this very natural process because Muhsin as an organization had it so laid out for me that, there was a protocol, and they do this across the country, across states, across, so many mosques. And so, they have this down to a T. So for me, it felt so natural to, start, disability awareness events and start, kind of my inclusion team, what we would call it here, to have, an alternative Sunday school program. That was kind of the conversation that we had about how just the process and the procedures that Muhsin has laid out for me that made it so easy for me to start this initiative in my community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think you're very fortunate, very blessed to have such an organization like Mussin that's active in your mosques. And some of our denominations in the Christian faith have that, and in their denominations, some don't. And so, but I think it would be in our other faiths, it would be important to find out where are our resources in our denomination, and also resources that don't have any denomination affiliation or anything as well. But y'all seem to wrap that up into one big package in Mussin, and it's really cool. So thank you. And Bonnie, oh, thank you for putting that certification program in the chat, Rebecca. Bonnie, I think y'all had a fairly large group and we're talking quite a bit. Can you kind of summarize what y'all talked about?
Sure. Everybody in our group is already part of an disability inclusion effort in the way that it fits for their organization. There are many obstacles that especially Becca is experiencing with being Orthodox and the rules around Orthodoxy. And we shared resources, and I think it would be good to keep in touch and form a network to keep going on what people are doing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this network is just talking with people that are dealing with the same issues is just so important. And I hope, we can, if it's okay, to provide people with your email so that you can keep in touch with one another and compare experiences, successes, and share disappointments. A lot of us are out there doing it alone, and so it's always helpful to have people with us that have been there and that are experiencing the same things. But I want to thank Lida and Hanan and Bonnie for being with us. We have learned quite a bit from each one of you, and your wisdom and experience can help us as other people are trying to start disability inclusion programs in their faith community. And so this has been recorded, and it will be sent to all the people who have registered and people who have attended. So we want to share this expertise and wisdom with others. Before we close, I just want to mention on Thursday, in 2 more days, we'll be having a webinar on how to start a disability ministry or how to start a disability inclusion program in your faith community. And Kristen Langford with Ministries will be with us. And then next Wednesday, we have a really special webinar. Keith Dow has done a project where he interviewed adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and asked them about their faith and their images of God. And so I've heard it at one conference, a very, very fascinating presentation that focuses on the spirituality of adults with disability. And so next Wednesday he'll be presenting, and also two people he interviewed will be with us as well and talking about their faith and how their spirituality is important to them. So you may be look wherever you found out about our webinars, just keep your eyes open, and that information will be out there too. And so I hope you can join us then. But again, thank you to everyone who's attended today, and God bless you and all of the work you're doing, and He will be with you. So thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.